I'm Mike Kelzer. Growing up in my family's pharmacy, life moved fast. There was always something to do, someone to help. But the moments that meant the most to me as I think back were the conversations my dad and I would have about business and life itself. We'd get so absorbed. We'd talk for an hour and it would seem like 15 minutes. This podcast is my way of keeping those memories alive. There's no scripts, no outlines, no fluff, no hidden agendas. It's just real honest talk about the business of pharmacy and sometimes a little more. Let's dive in. Nicolle and Bruce, introduce yourself to our listeners.
Ladies first.
All right. I'm Nicolle McClure, president of Finch Marketing. Our sister company is GRX Marketing, but here today to talk to you guys about Finch. We are a B2B company that works primarily in the healthcare industry. So we help companies market to independent pharmacy owners and other healthcare type companies. So excited to be here.
My name is Bruce Kneeland, and I've been around for 53 years, Mike. It's hard to believe. And I'm going to quit one of these days, but just not yet. I don't have any hobbies, and so I still putz around in the industry. And I write for pharmacy journals, and I try to help companies figure out how to improve what they can do to help pharmacies survive.
I appreciate you both being here. I love seeing your guys' stuff because it's in the cloud sometimes, but it's also in the dirt. It's real life stuff. So it's cool to have you here. All right. Now, I'm going to say something negative here. And now just bear with me. Don't take it personally because I'm going to turn it into a positive. But my dad, whenever we were in the pharmacy and these salespeople would come in and they'd say, we've got this product and we only sell to independent pharmacies. You guys are very special to us. We only sell to this. And my dad would always lean over to me and say, that's because they can't make it anywhere else. It was funny to me at the time. But like right now, if I was going to make a product or do something, I wouldn't go and try to be the leader of the whole world of pharmacy. I would niche it down and I would say, hey, we're good at this segment and this is what we do. In independent pharmacy, what is there still 20,000 or close to that now? So it's still a viable big market.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of companies when they're first starting out, to your point, let's start with the independent, which I think is great. The challenge with that is then a lot of them move on to wanting to hit the chains and all of that stuff, kind of where sometimes the mistrust from independent pharmacy owners come in because they are sold that it's only going to be through independent pharmacy market. And then it's not. And I think they feel kind of sold to a little bit. So that's where there's some of that mistrusting attitude.
I'll say two things on that subject. Number one is if you're a company and you're making a product or a service or a technology piece and your focus is selling just to independent pharmacies, that would be kind of like me telling you that I'm a high school baseball player and I say I only want to play in the minor leagues. It's the natural scheme of things that any company that is going to start with independence and then they're going to try to graduate to the major leagues. And I think independent pharmacies need to know that. I'll do one anecdote. I called on my first pharmacy in 1973, and I worked for a division of Pfizer, which made a cough and cold line called Coriban and Coriban D. And I sold a ton of stuff because that was the year Robitussin decided that they were going to sell to chains. And so the independents were abandoning Robitussin and selecting my product. And I had pharmacists tell me, wow, this industry's screwed. They're going to sell to chains and there's no future for us. I think independents need to realize that their job is to help companies grow. And when they get big, you go for something else. So the front end is complicated. It's tough. It's important. But when somebody gets in every Walmart, it's time for you to find something else.
What I'm hearing you saying is that pharmacists maybe have been burned and most companies don't want to just stay as independent, but that's okay. The onus is on the owner to say, what's good for us. Don't worry so much about the claims of what this company might do down the road.
Yeah, I think it's also companies when they're trying to market to independent pharmacy owners, maybe just be more honest at the beginning of, if their intention is to grow and go beyond independence, don't have that be your sole selling point. And I've seen that quite a bit over the years. And especially when we're working with companies for marketing, it's like, oh, okay, what else you got? Like, what other things can we focus on that shouldn't be your top selling point? Because I think independents start to not even believe that because it's happened so many times throughout the year. So if that's your only selling point, then you're not going to get very far.
Well, and Bruce, you had said this before, just saying we're independents. We smile at you and call you by name. It's like, well, fine, but that's not a real selling point because guess what? Chain pharmacists and people in the real world are not as nasty as independent pharmacists make them out to be sometimes with their selling points.
Amen to that. So, it's the classic thing. If your advertising is saying, fast, friendly service, 27 years in the community, those kinds of things are platitudes that have very little meaning to a consumer. That's one reason why independent pharmacies need to hire an advertising agency. And I'll say there's a lot of crises in pharmacy right now that are major things, the solutions of which many have been found, point-of-care testing, functional medicine, all those kinds of things. But pharmacists don't know how to say anything other than we've been here 27 years and we got fast, friendly service. They haven't figured out how to market the benefits of these other things so that they mean something to the consumer. And that same thing is true to companies coming into the business. It's started by independents and for independents. And that's a trite phrase. It doesn't captivate or persuade a pharmacist to pay attention to you.
Maybe all things being completely equal, that might shift it, but there's a lot of stuff more important for people. I mean, I think of, all right, here's a little secret. I'm not even going to charge for this one. But at our pharmacy, I don't know what our future is as far as, I don't think we have a real sustainable future. I don't have any pharmacists, children out of my 10. I don't have anybody in pharmacy, and I'm quite okay with that. In fact, I said, don't go into this unless you really love the science behind it, because who knows what's going to happen. Anyways, so I make a decent living, probably more than I would as a pharmacist somewhere else. So I'm like, screw it. In my remaining year or years here, I'm going to make this how I want it. So just today is our first day, 9 to 5. And then last week, what I did is I don't open the phones now until 11. So customers can leave a message and it pops up on our screen and this and that. We don't really get many phone calls. The first 2 hours of phone calls are just the little old ladies calling, hovering over the phone over the weekend and waiting till 9 o'clock so they can call. They're lonely and they want to talk to somebody. And those are the kind of calls we get. Long story short, can you imagine having a company where like you don't talk to anybody on the phone? And I'm thinking like, I wonder how that would go. And I'm like, Amazon. So here all the talk is of, we answer the phone, we don't use IVR, and we're friendly, and we know you by name and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, fine, but I also want to order a shower head and get it tonight between 5 and 10. And I'm going away this weekend, and my wife smelled a nice cologne in the mail last week, and I don't wear cologne. And I'm thinking, hey, she tipped me off to her. So I ordered cologne. It's going to come on Wednesday. What I'm getting at is Amazon doesn't say they smile and this and that. And it's like, it's trite, like you said. It's not going to last for people.
I don't want to perceive that I'm on board with Amazon Pharmacy in any way, shape, or form. But to your point that, the messaging is not around the personal service. Because, I mean, we do the same thing with new clients on the GRX side. When we have a launching call with them, it's what services do you offer? And they say personal service. And we're like, well, so does everybody else. So how are you different? And so that's, I think, really the crutch of this is if you're a pharmacy, if you're a business, what truly makes you different? Hopefully, I mean, everybody should have something. So that's where the focus and the marketing message needs to be.
We talk about what makes you different. We talk about change. And I like to change those words to what makes you better and how do you improve. So different is not a competitive advantage. Better is a competitive advantage. Changing, you have to change, you have to change, you have to change. Things are going to change all the time, whether you do anything about it or not. You're going to get a new competitor, somebody's going to die. You don't just change, you improve. And I think these kinds of words, semantics, make a difference as we try to communicate to people on how they're going to help pharmacists improve.
Agreed. And I think sometimes I'd read a bunch of marketing books. I read a bunch of stuff till I was 40, and then I stopped reading. I'm like, screw you all. Now it's my turn to spout off to everybody. Now you listen to me. So to my two listeners. Anyway, they would always say, segment your market, niche down. I'm like, okay, well, it's easy if you sell cigars. My audience is 20 to 60-year-old men with this income and things like that. Pharmacy's problem is we're like the Christmas song, kids from 1 to 92 or something like that. I mean, we do everybody, every sex, every income, every drug. And so pharmacists are like, well, what do you mean niche down? And then you don't niche down. And then you're like, well, we're friendly and we smile. We know you by name. It's kind of bland because we have, not derogatory, but we have a bland focus because we just can't. And so I would imagine part of the answer to this is, well, let's focus a little bit. Where can we focus? Where can we do it better? And where can we keep doing better?
And I think that the personal service standout could have survived maybe 5-10 years ago marketing a pharmacy. It definitely does not now, just everything that's happened in the industry. As a pharmacy, you've got to be drilling in on what insurance companies am I not making any money on? What products do I actually turn a profit on? And how can I get more of that business? And that's the speak that pharmacists understand, right? It's like, how can we increase your profit on particular drugs and things like that? Because marketing is a very ambiguous thing for pharmacists. It's gray, and a lot of them don't like it because you guys live in black and white. And so once you start talking about marketing things, it's kind of like they just gloss over. And your point, they're like, well, I don't know where to go with this because it's like we're just bland. And so I think that rings true more than anything else today. Is it's got to have a targeted approach or it just doesn't work. Like you can't just throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. It's really picking out those couple things and honing in on those services and really drilling down on those and beating people over the head with it, because you have to do it multiple times for people to even take notice, first of all, and then even more to take actions. A lot of times pharmacy owners, I think Bruce touched on this, want to advertise everything that they do, not just a couple things. It's like, let's just pick a couple and market the heck out of them.
And which physicians are prescribing the kinds of things that you still make money on? What segment of your customer base is still attractive because of A, B, C, or X, Y, Z? And here's where I feel to say this notion that, and we're talking about pharmacies, but the same thing is true of vendors. There's a difference between advertising and marketing. Advertising is how you tell somebody something in a persuasive manner. Marketing is trying to figure out who you're going to talk to. What services am I going to emphasize? What are the demographics in my area that I can capitalize on? How do I find that seam to independent pharmacies? Because that's where we live. The first thing I tell them is half the pharmacies are below average. Mm-hmm. You don't want to waste your advertising dollars on those. Half of those that are above average are owned by 4,000 or 5,000 guys. The multiple store owner has become a real target, and how you get to them and find them and persuade them is different now than it was 20 years ago. You need somebody who can plug you into the industry and who knows people and knows the processes. That's where I make my modest living right now, is having relationships with some of those people. And that's what excites me about my relationship with Nicolle. She's been around 15 years now, Nicolle.
A little bit longer than that, just over 20.
Did you open this business when you were 9?
Yeah.
You're funny.
She knows the people, and that's the point.
The year I started in pharmacy was the year Medicare Part D came out. So that shows you how much has changed over those years.
Let me ask this question before we go on to B2B. Can a pharmacy still market broadly, whatever it is? I'm not saying these are the ones, but let's say that there's non-broad. Let's say there's direct mail, certain computer ways to hit certain demographics and so on. Can a pharmacy market to the whole demographic, whether it's print, radio, whatever? And what would those 3 things be if they're not the traditional, we give good service and we smile and know you by name? Or, Nicolle, before we go into B2B stuff, or Bruce, or would you say, no, there is nothing. It is niche down and you don't do broadcast anymore, whatever that broadcast is, because you can't say these 3 things that are important enough to the whole audience. And so we're not going to do broadcast. But if you did do broadcast, would there be enough 3 different things? And Nicolle, what would those be? Give me an example of what they would be, or is it not there anymore?
I mean, I think it's still there in the sense of community type outreach. A good example is when you see a competitor is closing in your market. So you're just trying to get the messaging out there that we are open, we're available to serve you, that sort of thing. I think the way those messages are done has changed. And 5-10 years ago, you would put a newspaper ad and hope that somebody sees it. Now we can geofence that pharmacy that is closing. So people that are coming into the pharmacy see those ads of another pharmacy and can make that move right away when they get the ad on their phone.
So it's still broadcast. It's still to the 1 to 92, but to a precise location.
Yeah. And I would say definitely on a smaller level. I mean, if you're looking at kind of your overall marketing plan, that would be about like 20%, maybe 15% of what I would focus on. And then the rest, I think it's more targeted service-based packaging services. I mean, and that's just because a lot of chains don't do packaging. And also as our nation continues to grow and get older, a lot of them are going to be staying in their homes longer because either they can't afford to go to nursing home, assisted livings, and people are just living longer. So they're going to need those types of solutions to stay in their home longer. The other ones I would say is compounding. And then, I mean, we've seen a pretty big growth in cash-based pricing for prescriptions. They're just getting away from the insurance altogether and just going to that cash pricing. So I think that and just those more niche type products, whether it's vitamins or whatever that you can't find at your local chain pharmacy, but only available through your local independent.
There's always a percentage of people who just had a terrible experience someplace who are going to be open to that. The best analogy I can think of that is you drive down the street and you see the guy out there waving the sign, we got a 50% off mattresses. Yeah. 999 people are going to drive by that thing and it's going to mean nothing. But there's the one guy who just got divorced. He needs a bed. So there's that small percentage always that will respond to something because something just bad just happened.
All right, so B2B. Somebody comes to you, and before they open their mouth, it's like, hey, just so you know, we're not going to do some smarmy, we only sell to independent pharmacists, so let's just get that off the table. How are you walking through a B2B customer when they come to you? What are you opening up? What are you letting them know maybe about the independent market that they haven't thought of and things like that?
Well, I think a lot of the clients that we work with, they're either new to the independent pharmacy market, so they don't have any idea about the industry in general. So just educating them on, kind of how we touched on earlier, I would say a lot of pharmacists are more reserved, not as trusting from new companies at the get-go. So you really just have to be open and honest with them on how you can help them, but also putting in as many stats, analytical data as you can. I mean, pharmacists love stats. So how can you help save them money? How can you make them money? How can you help their inventory? Things like that. I will say that they also do like to know what their buddies are doing. So if you are working with other pharmacies and you have any sort of testimonial, adding that into your marketing message, I think can be very valuable because they're like, oh, so-and-so in this pharmacy's done it and it worked and I know him. And so I think that can definitely help a business grow. But yeah, I guess from a marketing side, something that I look at early on is what messaging have they done so far? What does their website look like? What does their LinkedIn say? That sort of thing. That's two areas that we can help somebody kind of right off the bat, crafting the message, but how they can execute on it.
I created a little formula 40 years ago. I was selling Health Mart franchises for the old Foxmeyer Drug Company back in the mid 80s to early 90s. And the three things that we focused our marketing materials around was pride. Does your pharmacy look like you want it to be? Are you proud of the way your pharmacy looks? And that was important because we went in and put in a decor package and retrofitted the front end and all that kind of stuff. The idea is you are a professional. You weren't PharmDs back then, but you were a healthcare professional. Does your pharmacy reflect that kind of a positive, prideful appearance? And then certainly, Tom, that's going to make them profitable. But the kicker that popped up back then was the most of the franchises we sold because Walmart was coming to town. So it was fear. If you don't do this, what's going to happen to you? Your buddy Fred over in Weatherford lost his pharmacy because Walmart came to town. What are you going to do? So pride, profit, and fear are the ingredients that I try to help these vendors understand that those are valid ways to try to capture the favorable attention of a pharmacy owner.
What would be an example of a company that is trying to market to somebody, trying to alleviate their fear without coming out and saying, we know you're afraid?
That's a really good question, and that's the art of the messaging. But you've got to be able to place in their mind that if you let this opportunity pass you, you're going to miss out. It's the old classic, be the first in your neighborhood. You don't want to be left out. You don't want to miss this opportunity. You can't high pressure that's for sure. You've got to have some valid thing that they're worried about. And that's not hard to find right now.
And that could be anything from competition coming in or just fear of missing out. All the other pharmacies are doing this. Don't be left behind. There's a few ways to tap into that fear, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me how many pharmacies I call on that still don't do immunizations with any robustness. And, and you're missing out. There's not only money to be made in doing that, there's good for society for doing that. And it's a growing opportunity for you to enhance your professionalism. You should be proud that you can give immunizations. You should be proud that you're helping people travel abroad safely, or, all of these kinds of things. So it wraps together.
All right, Bruce, but I'm guilty as charged on that. We did immunizations when I was kind of home more. I didn't want to go into the store. I was sick of the place, and we were draining out money with DIRs and stuff. And the team wanted to do immunizations. And then kind of when our staff got smaller, I went in there and I'm like, who the hell would want me to touch them and jab them? No, I just didn't want to. Yeah. In Michigan, we'd have these companies that you'd lose all kinds of dollars by doing these immunizations. So it's like, I'm not going to trade dollars for that. But I know that it's a good thing for a lot of people, including pharmacies, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's what kept some pharmacies afloat during COVID. So
I know. Yeah. And I agree. I agree with that.
It's a classic example. I saw a video on YouTube the other day of a person jumping off a mountain with one of those flying squirrel suits. And I was just captivated. I've seen it before, but for some reason, I found myself trying to figure out, how do you do that the first time?
Yeah.
You don't practice on a diving board and go into the swimming pool. You can't get any lift until you're doing 120 miles an hour. I don't know how they do that the first time. The point of that is if you're going to make a move into things, you have to carefully think, am I going to tiptoe or am I going to jump? And that's an artful thing. So how do you get into functional medicine? Do you stock a bottle of CoQ10 or do you put in a whole line of orthomolecular products and then do the physician detailing and then hire somebody who understands and then, or do you put in a bottle and when it doesn't sell, you say this is a bad idea. So you have to make a commitment and invest in the infrastructure, the presentation to make it work.
Yeah, that wingsuit. I figure you did some wingsuiting out in Utah there, Bruce, with all the cliffs and stuff out there. I know I would look silly doing that, and I'm sure both of us probably would. Just putting one of those suits on, I wouldn't even be able to.
I'd look flat as a pancake because I'd hit the ground at 80 miles an hour. So
I tell you, though, for our listeners that haven't watched that, you're right, because you jump off that mountain, they drop hundreds of feet. I mean, I don't know exactly, but they drop a long way before that glide takes off, the speed and things like that. And golly, that's crazy. Well, we did the same thing in our pharmacy. We did medical equipment, but we never got into oxygen because that's something that's like, well, how do you start that? I'm sure I could have thought of it. Maybe now with the internet, you could have gotten someone part-time. You don't dabble in some stuff. To that point, though, when you think about new chains going in of different stuff, restaurants and things like that, I know they probably take a bird's eye view. They say that here's so many houses, here's the competition, things like that. How does a company that's trying to do B2B, and let's say they're trying to really get the pharmacy to commit to something, how do they try to sell that to pharmacy? Because I know one that doesn't work is the old, hey, there's X amount of people in the neighborhood, and if only 0.1X does this, and if only 0.01 does this, that's 5 sales. It's like, that doesn't work. That's like having a ball that goes halfway each time, but they say it never actually touches. So how does a B convince the B of pharmacy that something is going to work? What's the best way a business to business is going to do that?
Well, I think you can take it a couple different approaches. Any statistics that you can show to try to link back to sales or how you can save them money or time, right? Because a lot of pharmacies are short-staffed right now. So if a business can come in and say, I can save you 10 hours a week, which equals X amount of time, I feel like a pharmacist is going to pay more attention to that than just some ambiguous statement about something. I think other things that have worked well is offering some sort of free trial or in product sense, like a free startup package so they can at least test it somewhat. I found that pharmacists want things that are easy to do. They don't want to yet another program to log into and check the results of and manage and all of that. So it has to be easy. It has to be easy for them to manage, but also easy to set up in the store or whatever it is. And then any sort of messaging that you can use with statistics, I think, have always been beneficial at that starting point.
I get some companies on the show and sometimes afterwards, and they're just trying to be nice, trying to make money, I guess, but they're like, hey, Mike, we talked about this. Why don't you bring it into your pharmacy? We'll do a free this or that. It's like, nah, there's nothing free. I got to bring it in. I got to tell my staff about it. Then I'm gone and something screws up and then this and that. Now they're upset with me. And my point on that is like, there's no such thing as free. And so almost like how we say pharmacies can't say we're friendly and nice, for a company to come in and say we're free, they might think, well, that's a no-brainer. It's not in pharmacy though.
Right. Yeah. So maybe it's not free, but here's what you get to get started. And it's a discounted rate or something. And I think providing what a lot of businesses don't do is they give nothing to the pharmacy to help actually implement said product or service. It's a lot like, here you go, you figure it out, we'll replenish when you have sold the first round of product, that sort of thing. So that's also a lot of what we help with is a company maybe has a great product, but there's nothing to help the pharmacy know how to sell it. And so I think that's a lot of times that's where the disconnect is then the pharmacy brings in this product and it could be the most amazing product ever, but they have no way of understanding like how to promote it to their current customers, let alone new customers. And so it doesn't sell. The pharmacy gets frustrated. They're like, I don't want it anymore. When if you could have just had that bridge of how to help them promote it, I think it could go a long ways.
And I think that's almost focus group material, because sometimes people just aren't thinking. It's like you bring it in. It's like if somebody would have talked to me, I would have just said, I could sell it to the customer, but I couldn't sell it to my team because they didn't have the confidence in this step. Things like that.
If you can't get it past your staff, then forget about it, because products will live or die by your staff. So,
I mean, that's clearly one of the most common things I hear. People go to a trade show, they meet with a vendor, they come back with 20 ideas, and they come back to the team and say, hey, boy, am I excited. We're going to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And the staff goes to lunch and nothing happens. I mean, with the people who I've had an opportunity to work with, I try to drive home to them, you have never sold anything until the customer has bought it, paid for it, sold it, and then been excited enough about it that he tells his buddy that he ought to try this too. So the sell isn't completed until the customer is thrilled and talking about it. And you've got to have the ability to work with the customer all the way through that channel, and then been excited enough about it that he tells his buddy that he ought to try this too. So the sell isn't completed until the customer is thrilled and talking about it. And you've got to have the ability to work with the customer all the way through that channel. Otherwise, you're going to get the product put on the shelf and it's going to sit there, and you're going to be mad at the vendor. You're going to be returning merchandise. You've experienced that 100 times in your pharmacy, Mike. I mean, what do you do with that brand new carb blocker product that came out? Do you remember carb blockers? The 80s, there was a big craze with take this pill and you don't absorb carbs and you're going to lose weight.
Man, I wish those were still around.
It's a channel. It's a commitment to the whole thing. And if you're not prepared to work it all the way to the end, I don't want to work with you.
Well, here's one too. We had this guy that would come in and we had this cream. It was a local company, and they maybe sold it to 30 or 40 stores in the area. And he would come in and the stuff sold like hotcakes. I mean, it flew off the shelf when it was there. He'd come in every month or so, reorder it for us, take out his pad. Okay, I'm going to bring in this many. And I think he'd bring them out of his trunk. But that wasn't sustainable for some reason. When I saw it was empty, I couldn't get it from my wholesaler. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind. The box was empty. Maybe someone on our team threw it out. Something else gets put there. And so you'd think like, man, that stuff sold well. Yeah, but even that's not enough. It's that whole process of how does this stay sustainable? Because it's not just selling it, and it's not just, and even if you sell it out, it's got to be sustainable. And what does that mean? Maybe, Bruce, to your point you alluded to, maybe you have to do so much that a customer calls the next day and says, where is this? Because the person loved it so much they told their friend. And so it's a tough world out there. To sustain stuff it's hard to do.
You know, I was fascinated. I went to the APHA meeting in Phoenix a couple of years ago, and you walk around and you marvel at the scores of vendors who came and exhibited that year who weren't back the next year. Mm-hmm. So the failure rate in marketing to independent pharmacies is quite high.
Trade shows. Don't get me going on this. Margaret and I, we're going to redo our cottage in 4 years and move out there once we sell our house. And so we missed the Grand Rapids home show or something. So we go to the Holland home show, and we get there, and it's about, picture like 3 bowling lanes wide, about the length of a bowling alley. And it wasn't like home builders. It was like gutter guards and all this stuff. And so I get in there, Margaret and I walk in, and the first thing this lady comes up and she says, hey, are you thinking about blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, no, I'm just here to do this or that. So Margaret goes in and gets stuck talking to her. By the time she looks up at me, I beeline to the other side because each one of these booths has about 4 people in it just staring at me. There's only about 7 participants in this 3-lane bowling thing. I just beeline it. So then she says to me, honey, I was looking for you. I said, you got to be nice to those people. They're just trying to do this. I'm like, well, Margaret, I just walked in and I said, all right, I'll be nicer. So we go to the other room and then someone comes up to her and does the same thing that this first lady did. But she wasn't too smart on this because she should have chewed me out later because, well, she didn't chew me out. She suggested I would be nicer. She should have done that later because now she had to stand there and listen to this guy's baloney. So I couldn't call her a hypocrite. Well, she had to learn that lesson next time. Anyways, who brought up trade shows? I don't like the damn things, but do the companies do okay with the trade shows? I'm assuming they do.
I mean, I'll personally say that we do well at trade shows, but I think you've got to get over that initial hump. To Bruce's point, you can't go just one time and not go back again. I mean, you kind of have to develop a presence there. But yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of great connections, not just with pharmacy owners, but other partners, B2B opportunities through trade shows. So I do think they're valuable. And you can have conversations that you're never going to have while you're stuck behind the counter at the pharmacy.
If somebody's serious about selling to independent pharmacies, I think they're indispensable.
Agreed.
You need to figure out how you're going to maximize your presence there. But it's not only what you sell, it's what you hear. But probably the biggest advantage of a trade show is it's the top 25% of the pharmacists who go to them. So we're automatically talking about customer segmentation and how you're going to get to the top 4,000 owners.
Well, now my list know where I rate.
Yeah, and you've self-admitted to that you're not aggressively trying to grow your business. You're not a cutting-edge guy.
I'm not.
That's where those guys are.
I know. I'm a lazy old 9-to-5er that doesn't answer the phone for 2 hours. They used to say when people remember the yellow pages. Nicolle, you're too young for this.
Oh, I remember the yellow pages.
All right. So the yellow pages, they'd say people don't buy from you in the yellow pages. Their finger goes down and they stop when they got to someone. Either they don't hate as much as somebody else or they trust you because they've seen your name. And so the yellow pages don't sell things. They bring back to your conscience a feeling that was built by other ways that this company has reached out to you. And so that's like the trade show. It's like, does the trade show sell in 1 year? No. Does it sell in 2 years? Maybe, but maybe it doesn't sell at all. But maybe then when someone brings up something about this company and you're like, hey, I've seen them. I trust them. I met that person. You don't know where the tipping point is in marketing.
I think Google is now the new yellow pages, right? If people are searching for some type of product and they've never heard of your company other than just finding you on Google, they're probably not going to reach out to you unless some compelling offer. But for the most part, I think they're going to just pass on by. So that's where having that emotional connection, whether that's through trade shows or just consistently reaching out to them through other avenues of marketing, are definitely beneficial. You have hit people over the head so much with your messaging. They're like, okay, I'll give this a try. I mean, that's what Amazon, that's what McDonald's, that's what the big companies do, is they're doing all their advertising through search engine ads and all this stuff.
I think we're mixing two different opportunities, and it might be important. I mean, as a pharmacy owner, you're not looking to make an impulse buy. You're looking to do something that has legs or tails or whatever that you're going to do over time. So it's not like I'm looking to buy a gift for my wife, or it's something that requires a little bit more thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest complication that I have talking to clients or prospective clients is the first questions a pharmacy owner is going to ask is, who are you and why are you so stupid to try to come sell to a pharmacist? Where did you come from? And they really want to weed out those people who have no experience or vested interest in the industry. So, why should I listen to you? Who are you? Where did you come from? And, that's where the idea, well, I'm a pharmacist, I own 5 pharmacies and I did this, that's where that starts to make some sense to the pharmacy owner. But then you've got to get down to, okay, all these, if I buy it, how am I going to sell it, or how am I going to be trained to use it? Are you going to be there to support me afterwards? And do my friends say nice things about you? Which comes back to, you really have to find the entry point into the industry. The value that Nicolle and I bring to people is we not only Nicolle can help them create messages and marketing materials, but she can point them to somebody who owns 20 stores who will talk to them as a favor to her. Just had that happen yesterday. I went out to 10 pharmacy owners who I know and asking them for a favor, and they respond, and I give that back to the client. It's not a mass market, I guess, is what I want to try to emphasize. It's a small industry. It's a big industry. It's almost $100 billion. So, there's room for people to do stuff in it, but there's got to be some passion. There's got to be some purpose behind what you're doing. Otherwise it's not going to go anywhere, in my opinion.
Psychology of stuff is weird. When I was working my tail off in my early years, and, we'd be open like 9 in the morning till 10 at night, and I'd wake up in the morning at 7, and then I'd have to go, and it's like, crap, I got to work now 9 hours tonight. I got to be at top of my game. And then anyways, people would come in and they'd be like, hey, I used to be a pharmacist, or we're doing this and we're doing that. And sometimes I'd be like, I'm not sure if this story is true or I'm embellishing it, but what I'm getting at is someone might say, I was a pharmacist and I quit that and I'm doing this now and I love it. And I'd get like jealous of people. My point is, the psychology, you'd think that if somebody came in and they said, we used to be a pharmacist, or we do this or that, there's like weird psychology from someone like me that says, because of that, you know what, screw you, I'm not going to deal with you, that kind of stuff. And it's just, it's the point I'm making is you don't know what is going to click with people.
True. And it's not one specific message that's going to click with everybody. Because I think a lot of pharmacy owners appreciate if you've been a pharmacist, because they at least know you understand the industry.
There's not going to be many people like me, and I'm not even sure if I was like me. The point is, you just don't know what's going on. So there's different ways to approach it.
Neither Nicolle or I are pharmacists.
I could probably play one on TV, but
not being one has hurt me in my career and what I do. That's for sure. But I'm not.
But Bruce, sometimes when I was in the time, I was making a crap load of money, but I wasn't real happy, stressed out, things like that. And sometimes I just wish, like, I didn't wish it, but I was wondering, like, what if my license got taken away? What if I wasn't doing this anymore? It would force me to get out of there. I mean, now things are better, but it would force me to get out of there, force me to get some more balance in my life. Maybe I wouldn't have been making as much money. Sometimes I used to have almost this, like, what would you call it? Like a weird dream, like to not be a pharmacist. I'm just saying it may have affected you detrimentally, but sometimes the grass is greener. Hey, asking about favors. Do you guys ever hear that thing from Ben Franklin? And this was really from Ben Franklin. This isn't one of those Einstein quotes where people say, Einstein said this, the definition of insanity. It's like, I don't think that was Einstein. But Ben Franklin really does say that to get someone on your side, you should ask them to do a favor for you. You ever hear that one before?
Yeah.
I haven't, but it makes sense.
I think it's in Dale Carnegie.
He might have mentioned about Ben Franklin then. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think what it does is it lets people know, I don't know the psychology behind it, but it lets people know that I don't know, you think enough about them to ask a favor, or I don't know what it is, but there is something there. So when you mentioned 10 favors of, what was that story, Bruce? The 10 favors of a pharmacist.
Trying to help a company that Nicolle and I are working with hire a good salesman. And so I'm going to pharmacy owners and saying, hey, you know anybody who's available? And I've come up with a couple good names that I've been able to send on that know the industry and know how to talk to a pharmacy owner and solve his problems. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not solving their problem, you're going nowhere.
About neither of you being a pharmacist, I'd rather have outside eyes. For example, rarely do I have an independent pharmacist on this show. It's like, I already know it. You're not going to tell me a lot. I'm not real interested in what you have to say. That's not bashing them. It's just that I could look in the mirror and say that to me. And I know there's benefits of camaraderie and all that kind of stuff, but stuff that's really interesting to me is usually going outside. And that's why it's like, I'd rather hear from you guys with your take on B2B. You kind of look at it from a little bit of a distance. You see the big picture. Sometimes I'd rather do that than having someone too close inside of it sometimes. All right, so Nicolle and Bruce, I've had you both on separately, and now you're sitting side by side. How did you guys come about that? I know you're both big names in the industry of helping pharmacies along. How did you guys meet up then?
I'm going to jump on it first and say we met at a trade show.
We did, actually.
Now, come on, are you serious? Now, come on.
Full circle, baby.
All right. So, Bruce, did both of you have a booth, or were you moseying around?
I think we had a booth.
I couldn't remember. I've 50-50 either way. Not so much now, although this time last year it was a perfect example. I like to advertise myself as the booth babe. So if somebody brings me to the trade show and I stand in their booth, they'll get 4 times as many conversations with people as they will without me, particularly if they're a new company. People just know who I am.
I've somewhat monetized the show, and I don't want to go and work at one of these things, but I've kind of thought that it's like, it seems like somebody might just want me there, if nothing else, because you know how they say like even bad publicity is publicity. I'm not sure if that's true, but they could say there's an a-hole Kelser over there. It would just get attention to the thing. And I'm not sure if I want to do that, but if someone said to me, hey, we'll fly you and Margaret out there for the weekend. We'll give you enough money to have a pharmacist at your stores pay you hourly while you're there or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm for sale.
I'm going to jump on that and say, if you don't desperately want to do it, don't.
It's a pain in the ass. Is that why, Bruce?
I love it.
But you love it. I already hate trade shows, so I've already done
I'm surprised you're even talking about it, because you said 20 minutes ago that you hate trade shows.
If you don't love it, don't do it, Mike.
I love my wife, and I love to spend time with her. I think I like to travel with her. We're going to Florida this weekend. We have still kids at home, so we got to do it judiciously. But you're probably right. I already showed my hands that I hate it. So what the hell am I talking about? Nicolle, how many shows does your company go to a year?
Between GRX and Finch, we probably do 8 a year. We don't do a ton. I mean, they are expensive. So we're pretty selective on the ones that we go to.
What is the price for the average booth at these things?
$6,000-7,000.
Which is less than half of the cost, because you've got airfare and hotels and meals and entertainment, time away from the office.
You're talking like $15,000, $20,000 sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for a small business like me, that's pretty good chunk of my total budget. So,
right. And most people don't sell there. It's just all promotion, relationship, and that kind of stuff. But most people don't open their wallets at one of these things to buy from you.
I mean, we typically sign up clients there at the show, but yeah, it's coming back with a lot of leads and following up. And that's the tricky part, because you have these great conversations with pharmacists, and then they get back to the pharmacy and back to normal life. And then it's hard to get back in front of them. So yeah, as many as we can close at the show, the better.
Someone told me, they said, try to bring one of your techs to the shows, because they're going to, I forget what they said, or maybe the maybe the show was encouraging techs to go because they're the ones that sometimes keep pushing good ideas where the bosses might get too busy. Bruce, do you wear your swim trunks at one of these shows like some of these models do and stuff?
That's a bad...
Or do you throw on a wingsuit?
Excuse me for coughing. I apologize for that. But when you make me laugh, so you can cut all this. You can cut all this part out. But,
this is staying right in there. This is staying right in there. All right. So Bruce and Nicolle. So someone's listening to this. They pull in their driveway, pull into work. They've got a minute to do something. What's something they can do in a minute after they listen to this show from both of you?
Well, I mean, they can go to our website. It's finchmarketingsolutions.com. I would say before you try to jump in the independent pharmacy market, do your research. And what I mean by that is go look at NCPA website, go on LinkedIn and just search independent pharmacy to kind of get an idea of what's going on in the industry. I've talked to a lot of companies trying to break into, and they don't have a clue. I mean, they don't know what a PBM is. They don't know. And it's not like you have to know the nitty gritty, but that's going to go a long way when you're talking with the pharmacy owner to at least kind of build that camaraderie. From there, I think it's just putting a strategy together of how you're going to reach these pharmacy owners and what your message is going to be. I would definitely start with the research first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm going to stutter for a minute or two, but I don't have a website. So go to Nicolle's website. If we assume that the company is coming from outside the industry with something, I have 2 one-hour PowerPoint presentations that I go through where I introduce people to the stats, I introduce people to the players, I introduce people to the problems, those kinds of things so that they get a high-level orientation of what are we getting in. I'm getting ready to invest $50,000, $100,000 to sell some Schlotsky to independent pharmacies. Why would I do that? The bigger issue, and I'm really big on this, is why. You need to be able to answer, why are you going to do this? And if the answer is because you think I can make a lot of money, I would encourage you to try something else. The thing I love about working with pharmacists is at the end of the day, they are concerned about the welfare of their customer, and they sacrifice their welfare to the benefit of the customer. And if you're not bringing them something that is going to make their customers better, then you don't have a long-term opportunity in this business.
Good info.
Yeah, well said.
Well, golly, Nicolle and Bruce, this is so pleasurable. I've had you both on before. We have a lot of fun. This is after my own heart. Half pharmacy, half marketing. Those are my 2 loves in the business, I suppose. So what a pleasure talking to you both. I know you're both busy, have a lot of stuff going on, so I appreciate your time. Great talking to you. I'm looking forward to the next time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. First of all, I want to go back to chastising you for not having the passion for going to the trade show to do your thing. What you do with your podcast is beyond remarkable. I enjoy listening to you. You're genuine. You have a passion for this, and I encourage you to keep doing it.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Shout out to your podcast, Pharmacy Crossroads.
Pharmacy Crossroads. Big news on Pharmacy Crossroads is we have brought in 4 other guests, and I am going to do 3 or 4 this year, and then I'll be done.
I saw that. Let's have you on for sure at that point. And Bruce, listen, I guarantee you, if you're at a trade show and I know you're going to have your swim trunks on, I'm there. No question. All right, you guys, take care. You've been listening to the Business of Pharmacy podcast with me, your host, Mike Kelzer. Please subscribe for all future episodes.